Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back to the show. We are excited to have our amazing executive leadership coach, Randy Swaim, joining us here today to talk more about his work, his book, how he's helping you. And it's so hard to introduce someone who has so many accolades. So I'm going to have the man of the hour say hello. Tell us who you are, Randy, and why you are here.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm Randy Swaim. I'm a aviation professional from the past, but Marshall Goldsmith certified executive coach. And my focus is on leading people, and particularly in situations that are not overly predictable kind of thing. And so that's really my focus. And as you know, Jill, there's a lot that I'm involved in with training and developing jet pilots and flight crews, as well as coaching them, as well as working with different groups to develop them. As you know, my autobiography just got published and all this. So just something to, in fact, the title is Bringing Freedom to Potential. So it's exactly that title there. So, but yeah, it's what I'm about. It's why I'm here. And why I got here was because, as you know, about 2 years ago, PBNN reached out to me, and been connected with you and some others ever since.
Years. I know. It's exciting. And we've grown so much together, learned so much from you. You've got another degree. You've got another book. There's a lot going on, which is great. So, by the way, how do we contact you?
Okay. How do we contact you? Of course, my name is Randy Swaim, but what you can do is go to my website up here, coachingforrelevance.com. And at the bottom of the homepage there, it has my cell phone and my email that you can reach out to me. I don't do sales calls unless you bring up something that you want help with. But, I'm not somebody that just tries to twist you and sell you and on stuff, kind of thing. I just connect with people. And there's some people that need some help. Okay, if somebody calls and they got that, then we'll look at it.
Perfect. Well, exciting to have you back. And I know you kind of want to piggyback on, our last conversation and talk more about the book too. So where did you want to kind of pick up for today?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll just say this as sort of the introduction relative to what you were talking about with the book. It's kind of interesting because my colleague that she actually does my website and all of that kind of stuff and does some of the marketing and everything, has created some images between her and my good friend and photographer at Saga Media.
Okay.
And they, we're going to be posting some of those, but also I'll just share this with you that it's not going to be this month. It'll be probably in the summer, but my colleague and I are going to get together for about a 20 to 30 minute launch program for the autobiography. And anybody that would like to join in, no cost or whatever, it's going to be on Zoom. And anybody that would like to join in or ask questions or whatever, we'll do that. So I'll be posting once we organize that and get it scheduled. I'll be posting it on the social media and stuff so people can get an idea as to where. But that's that. And then and I'll kind of dovetail out of a little bit about what we talked about last week. And you remember last week I was talking about the narcissistic and the dysfunctional ways that so many people try to control their teams today. And you may remember that we were talking about how so often today, and you see this in a number of environments around our society, but what you have is a lot of people that they try to just play control freak games with their team. And the way they do that is they try to fire up emotions within their people. Because if the people have just become totally emotional, it's almost like their thought process has gone into hold. And people do that in a way to try to control or make their people solely dependent on them and things of that nature. And that's a very dysfunctional point. I mentioned last week, and then I'll kind of dovetail into where I'm going to sort of take it this week. But I mentioned last week that are emotions sometimes important? Yeah. Do they have to have a degree of excitement and want to get there? Yeah. But the way that you do that is by not firing up stuff from external stuff to try to control them. What that does, it happens truly for success. The way that happens is when they do that within themselves and they sort of feel that way. And, how the leader needs to do that and to initiate that is a key thing that true leaders need to be aware of. And that's what a lot of people don't really think about. And as you know, part of that is because a lot of people that are in management positions today just want their team to just shut up and do what they say, kind of thing. And that's not going to really get you to radical results, kind of thing. And so and that's kind of what we talked about last week about it's that one sort of dysfunctional aspect that exists in a lot of places and everything. But what I will do, and I'll just kind of initiate moving into a new direction today, Jill, is the idea that true leaders, okay, it's not about dictating to your people, and it's not about necessarily telling them what to do. Are there times when you have to tell them what to do? Yeah. But have you truly prepared them for that time? And when I say that, I don't mean making them afraid of what you're going to do if they just don't do what you say. That's not being a leader.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. When you're talking about leading your team, particularly in an industry or organization or society or an environment where not everything is predictable, not everything's just rote, kind of thing. You have to realize that as a leader, your job is to not just point fingers and dictate. And this is a key word that that people don't often think about, and it's that the real job as a leader is to truly empower your people. And so that way, when something comes on scene that you didn't expect, they're already making the choices, kind of thing. And what I would say to this is when you're talking about really empowering your team to be able to really reach radical results, guess what? That involves a lot more proactivity than most people realize. It's not about telling them what to do and all this kind of stuff, because guess what? Some of the factors that come on scene may be completely unexpected. And you know what? When you're talking about flying airplanes, this is true, because guess what? Unexpected storms, unexpected, tornadoes or, whatever, kind of thing. Unexpected accidents with other planes or unexpected things that happen on a runway or whatever. There's just a lot of things that you just can't perfectly predict. And can you truly make the right decision? And so when you're talking about leading your team, you've got to be ready to empower them. And I will tell you this, that again, like I mentioned last week, I think you heard me say this, that it's not about the external forces creating this in you. No, it's about them creating it within themselves. And one of the ways that you do that is by empowering the people long before they need it. And that takes a degree of having the right conversations, of asking the right questions from a coaching perspective that get their processing going, where they can kind of think about that. And it's a key aspect that people don't realize. I shared with this a long time ago, and it may have been with you, but when I was leading our unit at the Griffiths Air Force Base over in New York, there was a team after a meeting. I had led a little bit of a discussion for our whole team, which was about 13 people there, kind of thing. And what was amazing is they stood up and they were going to come up with some ideas that they came up with based on our discussion. And the one pilot came over and he was going to sit down and make some notes, but then he all of a sudden he realized that the boss is standing right there, and he froze. And I think I shared this with you before. Then he froze and he just went, And he looked at me, and you know what I did? All I did is I looked at him and I winked and I
Yeah.
nodded my head. And you know what? He smiled with appreciation and sat down and
Wow.
came up some ideas. And so if you think about it, but guess what? Were we needing all of that particular day? Nope. Nope. It was
No.
some aspects of how you're empowering it. And the other part of this too is, you got to realize that not everybody
Yeah.
on your team is a rote academic person. They're not exactly the same. And so guess what? When you have unexpected, factors come on a scene, guess what? One of your people may have a dramatic, awesome
Mm.
success strategy that nobody else thought about because they had one insight about that factor that nobody else did. They may have had one insight about it that even you didn't have. And you know what? There's an aspect about that. Now, like I said, are there times in a rapidly challenging situation, from my military background, are there times in combat where the leader has to, kind of direct? Yeah, there are. But you know what? When you look at this aspect from your leadership in your team, whichever, environment, industry, whatever you're in, to what extent are you crossing a line?
Mm-hmm.
At what point where you have, directing when you need to, empowering so that they can reach radical results, even if you're not there,
Yeah.
kind of thing. And at what point are you really building that within your team? And it's just something to think about. It's a point out of that dovetails out of what we were talking about last week. Because last week, as you know, we were talking about how people just try to play control freak games on their people to get,
Yep.
and what they do is when you do that, you're getting your people to shut off their brain. You don't want that on your team,
No.
and you want to really engage them in a way where there's synergy, there's oneness. It's not that one person is trying to control because they're trying to bring all the attention on them because of one
True.
insight they think of, but are they building it in such a way where the team all
Yeah.
goes, yeah, yeah, kind of thing. And it's just something to think about. That's a little bit of a dovetail out of kind of what we talked about last week. And the idea is it's not just about you, controlling your people. Now, if they're starting to do something that's that's illegal or something like that, okay, yeah, you may have to step in. But the other part of that is, in fact, it's sort of interesting that I share with pilots that, it's interesting because a lot of pilots, and I can't remember, I think I may have shared this in one of the shows a long time ago, but, pilots have sort of been led to believe something incorrect about what their legal authority is for making decisions because it's not as expansive as they think it is.
No.
But here's the thing, when you're talking about decisions like that, to what extent are you sort of outside sort of the legal role, but you're still within the ethical arena? And here's the thing, ethics is less it's less clear, it's not obvious. And the challenge with the ethics of the decision making based on what you're seeing in this situation that's coming up, do you is it such that when the judge who's going to decide the case, if it ever comes to that, is going to agree with your decision based on the ethical sense of it and all of that? And guess what? Yeah, you know what? If I had to truly hurt somebody because they were being abusive to my family, guess what? Legally, I don't have the right to do that or to shoot them or whatever, kind of thing. But guess what? Based on
Yeah.
the ethics of what they're doing, maybe. And so you think about it when you're talking about your team. Again, it's literally not a situation, and it dovetails out of what we were talking about last week. It's not just about you just pointing fingers and dictating and all this kind of stuff. Because guess what?
No.
Not every situation that develops is going to be totally aligned with what you wanted it to be.
Yeah.
And how's your team going to really be synergistic and handle that? And so it's it's just an interesting point, but it's the point that I tell people is simply this, that as you go forward, if you're just waiting on some situation to develop, you're not doing your job as a leader.
Yeah.
If you get a chance to have some real conversations with people, if you have a chance to initiate a conversation when you've got, say, 10 of your team members sitting around a table or something, just kind of, drinking coffee and just kind of relaxing or whatever, sometimes asking a question that just gets them processing and thinking and envisioning. Guess what? Doesn't mean they'll have the answer that moment, but you know what? They may be thinking about it over the next 24 hours and come up with some aspects that they envision. And these are, excuse me, these, excuse me,
Dude, it's okay. All good. Hey, sip of water.
These are, but these are some things that people in the society particularly don't truly understand. It's like, if one of my people does this, what do I tell them? Kind of thing. Well, guess what? What you tell them may depend on who the person is, because how you do it and what you communicate may either be good or not good, be depending on who you give it to, who you're talking to. And so really, when you're talking about this, how you avoid what we were talking about last week, where you're just trying to play control freak games and, fire up their emotions so I can control them and dictate them, and they want to just shut off my brains. You're not being a leader when you do that. And by the way, you're decreasing your future success as the leader. And so, but if you can interact with them in such a way that you're truly empowering their ability to envision, to grow, to make decisions, to have their awareness, their situational awareness up, so that when unexpected, challenging factors come on the scene that they would have never expected, they can still process, understand the truth of that situation, which may be different than anything else that would happen. And yet they can make dramatic and radical success out of it, even if you're on sick leave kind of thing or whatever, kind of thing. And so it's this aspect. It's not just about controlling your people. It's not about firing up their emotions and all that kind of stuff. It's about helping them get the processing going so that they can truly bring radical results based on your leadership and you're empowering them, not making them just like you, but helping them develop into who is really going to be radical for that team. So it's just something to think about. Like I said, when you look at sort of dovetailing out of what we talked about last week, it's a key aspect. And there's a lot of people that would probably have questions about that. You know what? If anybody reaches out to me with questions, I'll be glad to entertain them and chat about it. But it's a key aspect. And when you look at that, it's a key definition between true leadership and just rote academic control freak management. And leadership gets you to radical success, because with leadership, if you do this and if you're truly empowering your people, not to just fit the academic stuff that I want it to be, but to truly make the right decisions at a critical point in a situation that develops, guess what? Your company is going to be applauding you because you're the leader of it. But you know what? But that aspect of really building that empowerment into your people, it's more than just at the point of attack. It's proactive. It's helping those conversations and that mental processing, and from a neuroscience standpoint, that mental processing happen before it's needed. But you know what? When they start seeing factors that come in on the scene, they don't just shut the brain off and go, boy, I hope that doesn't come up. Already they're processing. If that comes on, here's what we need to adapt. Here's what we need to kind of look at and tweak. And guess what? They're ready, even if there's unexpected things that come on scene. So it's really that aspect. It's not just about firing up emotions. It's not about all that kind of stuff. It's not just playing the control freak games and all that kind of stuff, but it's truly using the right conversations, the right questions, the right leadership techniques. And let's face it, a lot
Yeah.
of this is a coaching facilitative style kind of thing, but to get their processing so that they are becoming increasingly empowered so that when unexpected situations come on scene, they can get your team to radical results. And guess what? The management's going to come talk to you and say, good job, man. I would have never expected that after some
Yeah.
radical things happen. And as a manager, I would say, you know what? My team did awesome. I wouldn't call the attention to me. I'd talk about the team. I'd say the team did awesome. And
Oh.
so it's just something to think about when it's the dovetail out of that central piece, because this empowerment happens within them. It's not you telling them what to do
Yeah.
externally. It's about creating that growth, that development, that insight, that vision, and the strategic thinking that has to happen. And it's from within them. And so really, it's not just about controlling. It's not about emotions. It's strictly about, are you really empowering your team? Because that's what leaders do, not just managers.
Got it. Well, thank you for that. And also, Randy Swaim, I love it because you and I mean, it's every time we speak, you elaborate on so much. There's just so much to learn from you.
Well,
And
I will tell you,
that's why people come to you.
and I'll tell you, I appreciate what you just said, but I think you've heard me say this one time before. When I was in the military, I worked with some of the most incredible leaders I've ever imagined, and you know what? Not one thing did I ever learn from any specific thing they said. What I truly learned from them is everything I observed and how they interacted.
Got
And
it.
that's where a lot of my awareness came from you've heard me say General Richard B. Myers, who was the
Yep.
chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff from 2001 to 2005. In my mind, he's the most amazing leader with whom I've ever served. And but him, Colin Powell, people like that, the only um, really I never learned anything from just what they said.
Yeah.
What I learned from was how I saw them interact. And I learned a lot from that. So thank you for saying what you did, but I bring a lot more to it, just not road academic stuff, because road academic won't get you there.
Oh, well, thank you so
Mm-hmm.
much. All right, we still have more time, obviously, here. We got
Okay.
5 more minutes on the clock.
Oh, okay.
What else did you want to make sure we cover for today?
Well, that's the big thing on that, and that's very aligned with my organizational maneuverability concept. Because you
Mm-hmm.
know what, when you, like I say, when you go out and look at aspects like that, not everything, and the people that hear the video should understand this and should be aware of it, that not everything in your life is just rote. It's not always simple. It's not always academic, kind of thing. And are you
Mm-hmm.
developing your mindset? And a lot of this deals with
Mm-hmm.
neuroplasticity stuff, okay? The neuroscience stuff, because with going forward, are you just trying to convince everybody that you're right? Or are you truly enhancing and developing your processing ability in the frontal lobe of your brain? And that's amazing. When in flying, there's a lot of times where something comes on scene that, boy, I'll tell you what, boy, and
Hmm.
what are you really going to do about it? What are you really going to do about it, and why? Kind of thing. And so this is just another part of that. The neuroscience aspect of it is a key aspect of this. It's about developing the processing. And remember, your prefrontal cortex here is the part of your brain that does the processing. And if you're applying your leadership where you're shutting your own processing down or shutting down the processing of your people, guess what? You're taking everything that I brought to the table today and just throwing it in the trash can, kind of thing. But bottom line is, if you lead your people in such a way that through their experience of working with you, their processing keeps going, and they become aware of certain things that they didn't see before. Oh, you know what? So at what point would you make that choice, and at what point would you not? and what are the factors that might determine either one of those. So it's just a big aspect about it, because all that's related to coaching. It's related to leadership. It's related to developing your team and empowering your team. It's related to neuroscience and how the brain works. All of that plays out aligned with that. And so what I just leave with people is, if you're a manager, don't have your thought process solely in just controlling your people. Look at how you're going to have those conversations, that truly developing their ability to really process, make amazing decisions that are right and dramatically successful for you and your team. And so it's not just a simple rote thing, but how you going to lead your people in such a way where they can do that. Because guess what? That's where dramatic success happens.
Well, speaking of dramatic success, you are on a roll and helping so many people out there become successful. And you're always so modest, not to talk about your success and accolades. That's why I have to bring them up.
Thank you.
Well, tell us about the book. Where can we get it? What's happening with the book? We have to promote you. Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you. Well, the book, my autobiography, it's called Bringing Freedom to Potential. The subtitle is True Story of Overcoming and Soaring Above the Storms in Life. But what you can do, probably the easiest way to do it, I'm about to kind of publish things on social media, LinkedIn and Facebook and all that, where people can click on it. But I will say this, an easy way for people to get there also, if they're interested in purchasing it, if you go to my website, right when you go to the home page, just about 3 seconds or so after the home page is up, you'll see a banner that relates to my autobiography. And if you just kind of scroll down about that far to the bottom of the banner there,
yeah,
it says, basically, it talks about getting your copy. And if you click on that link, it takes you right to the Amazon page where you can purchase it if somebody wants to. And you remember there's one with Kindle, which is just a digital download. I know most people would like to have a hard copy, and that's good. But there's just 2 options. You can do it with Kindle if you wanted just a download, a digital download, or if you click on the Amazon button, that is one where they'll send you a hard copy. And there's been a couple of my friends that have already bought them. So, but yeah, that easiest way is to go to my homepage, and that little banner comes up a couple of seconds after you get there. And then down at the bottom of that little banner there, which is only about that far down, there's a little button that talks about getting your copy. And if you click on that, it takes you right to the Amazon page so people can purchase it if they want.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And tell us the website, how we can find you.
Okay. It's Coaching for Relevance. Like I said, right up here, it's coachingforrelevance.com. That's my website. And like I said, at the bottom of the page, it has my cell phone and it has my email on there. And so if somebody reaches out and wants to have a quick chat or something, you can email me and we'll be glad to try to set up a time to do it.
All right. Thank you so much. Pleasure having you back as always. And you have a fantastic day.
Okay. Well, Jill, I appreciate it. It's always an honor being with you on the show. And so listen, I hope you have a great rest of the day, and we'll look forward to working with you again.
Same here, darling. Thank you so much. Enjoy the day and let's dance away.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.